The tiered system is the most popular system used by merchant service providers. Because it's been in vogue so long, most merchants feel more familiar with some of these terms, like qualified, mid-qualified, non-qualified. These terms identify a tiered system of processing. Unfortunately for the merchant, this familiarity costs a lot of money. Let's explore why. The tiered system takes a range of cards a business receives in a given month and sorts them into 2, 3, 4, or more pricing structures called tiers, or sometimes called buckets. The many rated cards are dumped into one of each of the buckets. For example, let's take a tiered pricing system using 3 buckets. The first is called a qualified bucket, the second is called a mid-qualified bucket, and the last a non-qualified bucket. Each bucket is assigned a percentage rate called a discount rate plus a transaction fee. These rates can be whatever the provider wishes to charge. A common rate would be 1.75% for the qualified bucket, 2.45% for the mid-qualified bucket, 3.35% for the non-qualified bucket. The important question is what cards go in which bucket? There is no industry standard to answer that question. It is the choice of the merchant service provider. However, typically only debit cards and one credit card go in the qualified bucket. That credit card is a regular, unloaded credit card for retail accounts. The Visa rate is 1.51%. The MasterCard is 1.58%. Discover is 1.56%. No other cards are qualified. The difference between the Visa rate of 1.15% and the qualified bucket rate of 1.75% goes to the merchant service provider. That is 0.24%. The difference with MasterCard is just 0.17%, and Discover is 0.19%. Unfortunately, only 5 to 10% of accepted cards fall into this bucket in most cases. The interchange for some debit cards is just 0.05% and 22 cents per transaction. This raises the rate by the difference between 0.05% and 1.75%. That is 1.70%. This is a massive increase in fees for businesses who accept large transactions. Most accepted cards typically fall into the mid-qualified bucket. The interchange rate for most of these cards, including rewards cards, falls between 1.65% and 1.77%, with some as high as 1.95%. The rate over Visa interchange can be 0.80% with many rewards cards. Simply deduct the interchange rate of Visa Rewards 1 card at 1.65% from the mid-qualified rate of 2.45%, and you get 0.80%. This is 320% higher than the qualified rate and applies to many more cards accepted. This fee increase is hidden from the business owner because these cards are not identified on his processing statement. A similar rate increase is true for Discover and MasterCards. Remaining accepted cards fall into the non-qualified category. These include business and corporate cards, purchasing and signature cards, for example. Most of these cards fall between 2.10% and 2.40% interchange. This means the increase over interchange raises from 0.95% to 1.25%. These card categories can be manipulated by a merchant service provider according to how much profit he wants to make. Sometimes business owners are informed only of the qualified rate, 1.75 in this case, absent any mention of other rates. They are shocked when they find their average cost may turn out to be 3.2% or much higher. The reason is obvious. Most cards fall into the higher rate categories. Take as an example a total of $10,000 in transaction volume of Visa cards. The over interchange cost of the qualified card would be $24 because the rate over interchange is 0.24%. The same charge for a mid-qualified card may go up to $80 because the rate over interchange is 0.80%. Finally, the same charge for a non-qualified card may go up to $125, all for the same processing volume of $10,000. In Interchange Plus Pricing, the cost over interchange remains the same. For mid-qualified, it is $24, and for non-qualified, it is $24, compared to $80 and $125 in the tiered bucket system. Merchant service provider companies make a lot more money on this pricing scheme. The cost over interchange or wholesale is hidden inside the closed buckets. All pass-through fees are collected in this system. We discussed this in the previous video. Occasionally, a merchant will be given a qualified rate that is less than the interchange rate. For instance, he may be told that his qualified rate will be 1.49%, which is 0.02% less than the interchange rate, a loss to the merchant service provider. This is a deceptive teaser rate, actually, since the loss in the qualified rate is made up for in the mid and non-qualified rates. Often these rates are superinflated with such companies, providing them a superinflated profit hidden from the merchant. Whatever rate may be quoted to a merchant, keep in mind that all processors collect the sum of all pass-through fees from that merchant. Those fees cannot be reduced. It is what is charged on top of those fees that vary from one processor to another. If a merchant does not know exactly what those top fees are, he really has no idea what his negotiable rate really is. Interchange Plus Pricing is the only transparent method that gives a merchant that critical information. Tiered or bucket pricing conceals that information. If you have not viewed the video on Interchange Plus Pricing, please view it now.